Time now for our rants and raves, starting with Dan.
I have a rave for the Associated Press. They announced this week, or was it last week, that when their style book is revised in June, and this is what dictates most newspaper style, internet is going to be lowercase, and web is going to be lowercase. Finally.
Yes.
Now, the Chicago Manual of Style, on which most magazines and books are based, went with lowercase web a few years ago, but they still have uppercase internet. So
well, that's because autocorrect makes you put it.
They're going to have some. Yeah, we're going to have to fix autocorrect, aren't we?
Shirley, what do you got?
I have a rant for the critics of another authoritarian writer for the New Yorker. That's Calvin Trillian.
Oh, yeah.
He's gotten a lot of hot water on Twitter this week because of a poem he wrote a satirical poem on Chinese food that he wrote in the New Yorker. And for me, a lot of Asian American writers lambasted him on Twitter, thought it was insensitive. I actually thought it was, I would say it was tasteless only because it wasn't, it went over people's heads. But I thought reading it, it was an incredible, it showed me he had a sophisticated grasp of Chinese food. I mean, never in my life would I thought that the words mapo and soup dumplings would appear in a poem in New Yorker. I mean, that stuff only happens to the French with their brie and their Bordeaux. So I felt like we've arrived when we can be in a satirical poem in the New Yorker.
What was the gripe about the poem?
It was another, the millennials, no grievance too small to be offended.
Right, so that's your gloss on it.
Making fun of the Chinese, and they're making fun of the Chinese. The title was like Too Many Provinces, and just
it wasn't all that great, but
it wasn't all that great. But to me, as a Chinese American, I was so happy to be in the New Yorker, and the subject of satire.
Subject was satire. It went. All right, Tom.
Yeah. I have, I guess it's a rant, not against any particular media, but for an issue the media really cares a lot about, the First Amendment, freedom of speech in this particular case. This is, this involves the University of Tennessee, and at Tennessee for the last few years, the first week in March has been reserved for what they call Sex Week, and that's actually what they call Sex Week. And the Tennessee legislature, Republican-controlled Tennessee legislature, has been trying very increasingly hard to shut down Sex Week at the University of Tennessee, and they've done it by threatening to pull all kinds of state funding out of the university if it doesn't get shut down. Now, Sex Week, despite the name, is not about fraternities and wild parties and stuff. It really is a several-day-long series of panels about serious issues that involve everything from sexual abuse on campus to gender discrimination and so forth, to really have serious discussions about around these issues. And the legislature, even though it's tried to hold money back, it turns out that Sex Week is funded entirely by voluntary student contributions. So it ends up being really an issue of the legislature trying to stifle what is free speech on the campus. And this battle goes on, but I thought it was interesting to note that the legislature did manage to find $100,000 to give to the University of Tennessee to make sure that every one of its police cars had the words "In God We Trust" stenciled on the side.
On the side of the police cars at the university.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
Yes.
All right, Adam.
All right, I got a quick rave for McClatchy newspapers, including your old paper, the Miami Herald, which were the only big U.S. news organization to participate in this Panama Papers project.
Oh, yeah.
That was spearheaded by the International, tell me if I get it wrong, International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Did I get it right? By ICIJ? Apparently ICIJ tried to get some other big American papers to join them. They took a pass, but McClatchy's doing it, which is fabulous.
Yeah, so the New York Times missed out on this. What was up with that?
Well,
they weren't included.
Without having been privy to the conversations that were alluded to, the interview that I heard featuring someone from ICIJ suggested that the Times and the Post and maybe others didn't want to be a part of this. We are all working together in concert with each other on this. Perhaps they wanted to go it alone.
I'm surprised they didn't leak it.
Marty Barron, the editor of the Washington Post, talked about this last week, and he said that the Post has had some trouble working cooperatively with these folks, so it happens.
All right.
Yeah, I think the New York Times wanted to do wanted to own its own material.
Sure. I'm surprised they didn't leak it, though, because nobody knew about it. All right, finally tonight, I have a rave for Phil Schreffler. He was the executive editor of 60 Minutes. Died yesterday. I couldn't believe he was 85. I just think him forever as being like 45 years old. He was Don Hewitt's right-hand guy, the voice of sanity at 60 Minutes, and the only guy in the entire outfit who could ever tell Don Hewitt, no, we're not doing that, and we're not doing it that way. And he was a great editor and just a great guy to be around, and he died yesterday. That is it. All right, well, that is it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org.